Welcome to my YouTube channel. At the end of this tutorial, you should be able to drag your basic notch collar jackets properly. The basic measurement needed are your vertical measurement and your horizontal measurement. The horizontal measurement are your bust measurement, your waist measurement, your hip measurement, then your bust pan measurement, then as well as your from your shoulder to your the hemline, that is the jacket length. We're going to be making use of jacket length of 30 inches. We start drafting properly using from the back pattern because we are going to be making use some of part of the back pattern in the front. Draw a vertical line at the edge of the paper or fabric which represents the center back line. Make sure the length of this center back line is about the length of the jacket. Now you insert all the vertical measurement on the center back line and extend the line rightward. You start from the shoulder line. The first line you are going to make at the tip of this center back line is the shoulder line. Then next you are going to the next you go to the hem line. The hem line is about 30 inches away from the shoulder line. That's the ending point. The next line you are going to be going for is your bust line. The bust line is 10 inches away from the shoulder line. Then the next line is your waistline. Our waistline from the shoulder line is about 17 inches. And after that is your hip line. The hip line from the shoulder line is 25 inches. Then we'll now go back to put our chest line. Our chest line can be calculated as the bust divided by 4. Our bust, the actual bust you are having here is 36. Divided by 4, we get 9. By 9, we get 9. So it's going to be divided by 4. So the bust position is going to be 9 inches away from the shoulder line. We insert the shoulder measurement on the shoulder line. So on the shoulder line, we measure 3 inches from the center back line and also measure 9 inches, which the 9 inches is half the measurement of the shoulder length. Our shoulder length is 16. Half of it is 8. We add 1 to it because it's a jacket, making it 9. So we are going to mark it there. While the initial 3 inches we marked, it represents the neck width. So the neck width is 3 inches, while the shoulder length is 9 inches. So we mark both. Then we'll come down to the chest line and mark. We come to the chest line and mark 9 inches away from the center back line. With the help of ruler, connect the 9 inches marking on the shoulder line with the 9 inches marking on the chest line. This line is called the armhole line. As you already know, your shoulders are not square, they are usually slant. So that means if you're putting a shoulder, it has to be in a slopey form. So we call it shoulder slope. For we to get the shoulder slope, we go back to the armhole line and subtract 1 inches away from the shoulder line. That's 1 inches downward. We mark. Then if we mark it at that 1 inches downward, what we now do is that we connect it for our back neck. These markings. What we are going to do is to measure 1.5 inches from the center back line and mark down the neck width. That 3 inches go down at the neck width. If we draw a perpendicular line, this line represents then also go to the 3 inch line. That's the width. That's the 3 inch width marking on the shoulder line, and draw a perpendicular line downward so that this line will intercept. So when this line intercepts, you will now draw your curve out of it. So this represents your neck width. On the chest line, insert the bust measurement, which is the actual bust is 36. We are using here. You add 5 inches to it because it's a suit, making it 42. Divide by 4, you get 10.5. We added 0.5 also to make for ease. That is 11 inches. So we marked. So using a curve rule or French curve or freehand, connect the marking on the shoulder slope with the marking on the chest line. This line is called the armhole curve. You should note that the back armhole is usually not as deep as the front armhole. So this back armhole is shallow. Insert the waist measurement on the waistline by dividing the waist by 4. We have actual waist of 30. We add 5 to it, making it 35. Divide by 4, we get 9. We get 8.5. 8.5. So we approximate it to 9. So we added for the 9 for ease. Then we added 1 inches for the dart spacing. So making it 10. So on the waistline, you are going to measure 10 inches away from the center back line. Then now on the hip line, you are going to divide the hip measurement divide by 4. Our hip is 42 plus 5 inches, which is the allowance, making it 47. Divide by 4, we get approximately 12. So we mark 12 inches. Then on the hemline, we mark with the same measurement that we got on the hip line, on the hem line from the center back line. Now you connect all the markings from the hemline on the hemline, the hip line, the waistline, and the chest line together using your curve rule or your freehand. It all depends on what you have at your disposal. For the dart placement, what we do is that on the chest line, you mark 5 inches from the center back line. Then you do the same thing on the waistline, do the same thing on the hemline. So you connect this 5 inches marking on all these vertical lines. You connect them together using ruler, and you call this line the dart line. On the waistline, measure and mark 0.5 inches on both sides of the dart line. Now connect the two markings to 1 inch before the tip of the line at the chest line, then 2 inches before the hip line. So we are going to stop 2 inches before where it touch at the hip line, then 1 inches before where it touch at the chest line. With this, you can now draw the dart legs. So if you draw the dart legs, then go to the armhole curve, measure the midpoint and move down by 1 inches. Then mark and connect to the tip of the dart line on the chest line. So what you are going to do in this place, there's no need of you putting dart legs here, because the curve is going to be very soft. For proper fitting, we are going to shape the back pattern from the center back line with the help of ruler. So what we are going to do is we are going to draw a 1 inch parallel line inward the center back line from the chest line to the hemline. So what we are going to make a semi S curve in between the chest line and the waistline. Then from the waistline is going to go straight down to the hemline, as seen in our description. So you can decide to style the jacket. So what you are going to do is that at the sideline on the hemline, where you move upward by 1 inches and mark, connect it to the tip of the center back line and then the hemline using your ruler. This is the back pattern. So what we are going to do, all the side that we're going to cut out is where it's being shaded. So like I said, but you are going to shade all the parts that is being cutted out. This side is majorly for styling and for proper fitting. Then we'll proceed to the front pattern. So for the front pattern, because of the construction of lapel as well as the collar, what we are going to do is that we are going to be shifting away from the edge of paper by at least 4 inches. Then from the top of the paper, we are going to be shifting downward at least by 6 inches. So like we did in the back pattern, what we are going to do is firstly, we are going to draw all of the vertical lines. Then this time around, the bust line is being used because we are going to put our bust pan on it. And like we did in the back pattern, mark 3 inches for the neck width. Then as well, mark 9 inches, that is half of the shoulder length at the shoulder line. Mark all these at the shoulder line. Then what you now do, also mark 9 inches at the chest line. Then connect this marking on the chest line with the 9 inches marking on the shoulder line together. This line is called the front armhole line. So on the shoulder line, what you are going to do now is that you are going to insert the shoulder slope, which is 1 inches from the shoulder line. If you've marked that 1 inches downward, you connect it to the 3 inches marking, the neck width marking at the shoulder line. So this is your shoulder slope line. The next thing we are going to do is to get your front neck depth. For front neck depth, there are general rules of thumb we can make use of. You can make use of 3, you can make use of 3.5. It all depends on how you want it. But there's a formula you can use. What you use is that you divide your bust, divide it by 12. So our bust is, the actual bust is 36, we divide it by 12, so we get 3. So I'm going to be marking 3 as our neck depth. So you proceed with bringing out the neckline by drawing a perpendicular line from the neck width and the neck depth when they meet together. So you bring out the curve. Use your curve rule or your freehand like what we are doing here. Mic check 1 2 1 2 1 2. Mic check 1 2 1 2 1 2. The next thing we are going to do is to insert our armhole curve. What we do is that we insert our bust measurement. Our bust measurement is 36. We added 5, making it 42. Then divided by 4, and we get 11. So we mark 11 on the chest line. Then we go to the armhole line. What we do at the armhole line is that we find the midpoint. When we get the midpoint, then we move in at the midpoint by 3/4 inch, then mark. So what we are going to do now is to use your armhole. We are going to get our armhole curve by connecting these 3 marking. That is the shoulder slope, the 3/4 inch mark, and the one at the chest line. We'll connect it using ruler and curve rule. You can as well use your freehand. It all depends on the gadgets in your disposal. On the waistline, you insert your waist measurement, divide by 4. That is 35 divided by 4. That is 8.5 plus 5 plus 0.5 inch is plus 1. The 1 inch is for that spacing, making it 10. So we insert just like what we did at the back. Then on the hip line, you divide the hip measurement divide by 4. That is 42. The actual is 42 plus 5. That's 47. Divide by 4 is approximately 12. We insert 12 inches from the center front line. We insert it to the hip line. Then we do the same markings we did on the hip line. That's what the same marking we are going to insert on the waist, on the hem line. So we connect all these markings from the hem line to the hip line, to the waistline, and to the chest line using ruler or curve rule. Or you can as well use freehand. For the dart placement, in the front panel, we are going to be marking the darts. We are going to be marking the dart line from the bust line and not the chest line as we did in the back panel. So on the bust line, you are going to measure 4 inches, which is the 4 inches we got it from the half of the bust pan. Our bust pan is 8 inches, so we divide by 2, we got 4 inches. So we are going to mark the 4 inches from the center front line. So you do the same thing on the waistline, the hem line, and the hip line. So then you use your ruler to connect them together, to connect this 4 inches marking from the chest line down to the hem line. We are going to have a new bust point. The initial bust point was at 10 inches. So we are going to come down a bit so that it will not be that sharp. We are going to be coming down a bit by 3/4 inch on that same dart line. So when we come down by 3/4 inch, then we connect then we'll go to the waistline, connect, measure 0.5 inch, that's half an inch from both sides of the dart line, and connect it to this new bust point. Then at the hem line, rather you mark 1 inches away from the hip line. Then connect these 0.5 inch market at the side of the dart line and connect it together. So bring out the dart leg as you've seen the way I'm doing it right now. So you go to the armhole curve. What you do is that you measure the midpoint of the armhole curve and move down by 1 inch. Then mark. Then connect to the top of the dart line or of the bust point or on the chest line. So on this particular line that you just did now, you are going to move upward by 1 inches, 3/4 inches away from the bust point. Then you connect it, curve it out. Use your free hand to curve it out so that it will not be that pointed. So remember that we subtracted 1 inch from this 1 inch from the side of the back panel. So we'll do the same thing here. So at the side of the back panel, we are going to subtract one. We are going to move up by 1 inch and mark. Then connect to the midpoint of this hem. So we'll connect it using our ruler, and we can. That's this part of the front panel. The next thing we are going to be is left. What is left with us is lapel and collar. So for the lapel, what we are going to do is that we first of all we mark there's going to be an extension of 1 inch, which is a parallel line that is 1 inch away from the center front line. So after marking the extension, which is 1 inch away from the center front line, the next thing we are going to do is that there is the breaking point. We introduce the breaking point, which in this particular case, I want the breaking point to be 1 inch away from above the waistline. So you mark it at that extension. Then you connect toward the neck width. This part is very vital and very tricky. So what you are going to do is that you go to the shoulder slope and you extend it by 1 inch upward. You are going to extend it towards the neck width. You are going to extend it towards the center front line. Then this serve as the collar stand. You know, this is a suit or jacket. There is no collar stand. So this is an imaginary collar stand. This help for the collar to break perfectly without being awkward. So when you connect this extension, you connect it by, there's a 1 inch extension at the shoulder line towards the center front. You connect it. So from the markings of 1 inch above the waistline, which is the breaking point, you connect it to this new extension. You should note that the shoulder line and the neckline remain the same. This line serves as a roll line. You understand? This is the roll line. So at the actual neck depth, what we are going to do is that we are going to measure 2 inches away from it and mark. At the actual connected, there should be an extension from the actual neck depth. Connect outwardly by 2 inches. It all depends on style or the desired style. You can make it 2 inches, you can make it 2.5, 1.5. It all depends on what you are going to do. So you measure these 2 inches away from the center front line and mark. Then connect this marking to the break points. Make sure that this marking is not straight. It's not that straight. It's not sharp straight. You are going to make it a bit curvy, like what you see the way I'm doing it here. Just make it anyhow. You can make it curvy. You can either use your free hand or you make use of your ruler. So this is the lapel. Now we are going to bring out the notch, which is the spacing between the collar and the lapel. Our notch is going to be 0.5 inch. You can make it 1, you can make it 2. It all depends on the style. I want it to be very close. I'm making it 0.5 inch. That's half an inch away from each other. So that's the notch. So what we are going to do is that you go the tip of the lapel, mark 0.5 inches upward from the tip of the lapel. Then connect it to the tip of the center front line. That's the neck depth, the actual neck depth of the original drafting. You should always note that when drafting collar, that 1 inch extension at the shoulder line is only meant for drafting the roll line. So make sure that you don't make use of it here. So from the neck tip, you are going to move away towards the shoulder line by 1/4 inch and mark. Then extend this line vertically upward by inserting the back neck measurement, which is 4 inches. In this particular, is 4 inches in this particular drafting. So you square it. When you mark that 4 inches, you square it. Then also at the midpoint of that 4 inches, you find the midpoint. If you find the midpoint, go to the top of the 4 inches marking, then extend backward by half an inch. Connect it back to this midpoint, this 4 inch, midpoint. Then curve it out, style it out using your pen, or you just blend it out blend it to the front neckline. So at the tip of the extended, this 4 inches back neck that you represent here, you are going to, after you square it, you are going to measure 3.5. It all depends on what you're doing. So I'm measuring 3.5. Then I'll connect it towards the big base, towards the neckline, then style it out, then bring out the notch. Like I said before, the notch is the distance between the collar and the lapel. So our notch spacing is going to be 0.5 inches. We bring out the notch, which is 0.5 inches. So we stop 0.5 inches to the lapel. So then we connect from that point, connect it to the nape of the neck, the original nape of the neck. So we connect it to the nape of the neck.